Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for an amazing discussion that we'll have. My name is Adam. I'm head of community at Demium. And you may ask yourself, what is Demium? Who are we? We are international talent investor, meaning that we invest as a VC in brilliant startups, but at very early stage. So we want to support talents that are starting up their business, and we want to help the best to find potentially sometimes a co-founder, develop an idea with us, and get investment. And the best, we believe, are also women. And unfortunately, we would like to have more women innovating. We'd like to support the place of female founders in the ecosystem and provide them with more opportunities. To talk about this topic, the challenges that female founders face, but also maybe their success stories in order to inspire you, our amazing audience, we have gathered amazing panelists today, thanks to our partners, Girls Future Ready, and female founders. We have founders, we have accelerators, investors, and also foundations representatives in order to discuss how to get your first investment as a female founder. Without no further ado, I pass the microphone to Zofia Kirner, who will moderate the discussion.
Thank you so much, Adam, for that great introduction. I am so happy and excited to be with such an incredible crowd of empowering women today. I wanted to start off with maybe a little bit of an introduction about myself and what we do. So I'm Zofia Kirner. I am the founder of Girls Future Ready Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization centered towards helping young women up to 24 years old from the Central Eastern European region be prepared for global careers. So that's including confidence, public speaking skills, global mindset, concrete business abilities. And through a lot of our initiatives, girls have started their own, whether it be startups or podcasts or new NGOs, and being there and guiding them along the way, but also running a foundation, which is now scaling to over 50,000 people that are in one way or another involved in our initiatives. We've had, I guess, a lot of experience and idea of fundraising and supporting those who are building their businesses early on. So this is definitely a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and I'm super excited to be here and to be moderating this discussion with you all. So before we go into our incredible panelists, let's talk a little bit about the issue that we have at hand. Looking at statistics published by Fortune, by Forbes, by Female Founders reports, we see that about only 4% of all venture capital firms are female owned. Then we see that less than 9% of all venture capital investing goes to female-led businesses. And then, according to PitchBook, less than 2.4% of venture capital investing goes to female-only teams. This is a big issue when we're looking at the amount of innovation and the different amount of skill sets that women can bring to the table of business, to new startup ideas and initiatives. And I think we can all, speaking from our experiences, say that we would like these numbers to be much higher. So what we will be talking about today is where are these statistics coming from? Why are they shaping the world of investing the way that they are? And what can we as female founders or as women who are either aspiring to be business owners or are business owners can be doing to sort of attract more of this capital, get your first investment, and get your business running and off the ground? So I am so privileged to be here with a group of really inspiring women who will take a second to introduce themselves, but I wanted to sort of start off and introduce them to you. So we have Kasia Griswold, who is the CEO of Hear Me. We have Clara Loses, who is the CEO and founder of Talkbase. We have Antonella Szpak, who is the Accelerator Manager for Growth F at Female Founders. And we have Karolina Wilk-Trianowska, who is coming to us from Demium, and she is the Regional Manager of Central Eastern Europe. So I wanted to hand the ground off to all of you to introduce yourself. Antonella, how about you go first?
Happy to. Thank you, Sophia, for the quick overview, for the quick intro. I'm so glad to be here, so excited to talk about this very important topic. Again, I'm Antonella. I'm the program manager of the Accelerator, Startup Accelerator Grow F. This is a 3-month online investment readiness program for female-led companies to get the first institutional investor, the first VC on board, and really prepare for the struggling phase of fundraising here as well. The program is part of Female Founders, and Female Founders is the fastest European community for female entrepreneurs, for women and female talent here. We are reaching over 60,000 people weekly through our channels, and with our programs and our events, and obviously also our partnerships, we are pushing forward the topic of diversity and inclusivity in the tech and innovation space. Yes, I've joined Female Founders about 2 years ago, and since then, it's just my pleasure to support female entrepreneurs on the way to fundraising. Thank you.
So good to be here with you, Antonella. I'm a huge fan of Female Founders, especially their content on LinkedIn. So if any of you are not following them yet, I heavily, heavily recommend. Clara, how about you go next?
Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. Really excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Clara, currently one of the co-founders and CEO of Talkbase, and actually an alumni of the Grow Up program. So it's an honor to be here. What we're building, what we've been doing with our company for the last year is supporting community managers to build world-changing communities. And how we're doing it is by building our SaaS platform that's available to all founders and I would say community leaders in different startups all over the world to scale their programs and what they're doing. I'm really excited about this topic. I'm really passionate about talking to anyone about fundraising, and especially my fellow female founders. So happy to be here.
Thanks so much, Clara. Great introduction, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more about Talkbase as well. Kasia, stage is yours. And I think you're muted.
Of course, it's November 2022, and we still haven't learned, right? And because I was so excited to introduce myself. So thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. And it's an awesome change when we are in this male-dominated environment, and finally, we have this one guy here, and the rest of us are women. So it's a nice change. I'm Kasia Gryzło. I'm the CEO of Hear Me and Employmind. Hear Me and Employmind are exactly the same companies, but we started as Hear Me in Poland, and then globally we expanded as Employmind. And what we do is the mental health support for employees. And at this stage, we have around 80 companies using our service in Poland, UK, US, and the Netherlands. We are working, our group of people consists now of almost 100. So our organization is growing and growing. And yeah, I think these are the most important things I want to share with you guys, and we're looking forward to our discussion.
Fabulous. And now, last but certainly not least, Carolina, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So I will try to be quick, as Adam already made a little bit of an introduction about Demium itself. What I can say is I'm very proud to be the leader and kind of facilitator of our fundraising processes from Central and Eastern Europe, which is proudly having 3 hubs in the region. This is Warsaw, this is Kiev, and Prague. What else I can say? Maybe some kind of statistics. I know that today we will be talking how investors can improve, and I'm all ears to hear about different perspectives and to learn from our great community. What I can share, what is a good maybe starting point, is just last year in 2021, Demium had a privilege to invest more than 3 million euros in female-led companies. So of course, there's still plenty of work in front of us, but I'm a true believer that we are getting there, and we have to inspire each other to strive for more. And thank you very much for having me.
Fabulous. And Carolina is actually one of the mentors in our Her Story project at Girls Future Ready. So we have a very sort of special connection where she is helping one of our girls build her own startup as well. So it's a very, very great community. As we can see, we're super privileged to be among a lot of knowledgeable women here. So we're going to break it down into a few questions. I really want to kind of get your guys' understanding, first of all, from the very startup experience from Clara and from Kasia about what the fundraising processes have been for you guys, and then for Antonella and Carolina from the Accelerator and like I guess the supporter and investor point of view from the background. So the first question goes out to you, Clara, and to you, Kasia. What is something that when you're coming up to investors and you're pitching your business idea, what are some, I guess, tips and tricks or experiences that you guys have had when it comes to fundraising for funds. Has there been any concrete stories or examples and situations where you've encountered difficulties because of your gender when pitching your initiatives, looking for financial support? Is there any barriers that you overcome? How have you done this? Clara, how about you get us started?
Thank you for the first question. I think it's definitely a process, right? I would say the number one learn for us is to really be prepared. And that was a big learn for me as the person who was fundraising. Our co-founding team has two members, my CTO and myself, and I was leading the whole fundraising process. So big learn number one, be prepared. I think again to mention the growth program, this helped us tremendously, and we actually joined the program while we already kicked off our fundraising. And I wish we had joined it before, because I've learned so much even during the process. So number one, preparation. Number two, what I would say is never, you can never, it's never too early to build your network. And this was really important to us. You don't necessarily need to build a network of just the investors you want to raise from. You really want to have as many supporters as you can have, right? And then number three, I would say the biggest learn for me was to talk to founders that are just like one or two steps ahead of you. There's so many founder stories out there, but especially if you're early, especially this is the first investment you're looking for, ask for the stories around you. You know, listen to talks like this one. Hopefully this one will be helpful as well, so that you know kind of what's ahead. Because having that, having listening to someone who's done this, a couple months back can be so much more impactful than to listening to someone who's done this many, many years ago and has raised, multiple large funds. Because the environment changes all the time, the mindset changes all the time. So I think it's really important to kind of be able to get that inspiration. And then I think one of the most important things is coming in as a female founder to the fundraising process is basically kind of not to be your own enemy, right? Not to let the mindset of being a female founder to stop you. And I think this was something that I didn't realize at first, but it really came to me when I got a couple of very, very weird questions during the fundraising process, and we can kind of get into those a little later as well. But I think it's kind of realizing that, hey, I'm a founder like anyone else. If there are questions that I feel like are appropriate, I don't have to answer them, right? And I am the right person to build this company, and I'm the right person to be leading the process. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. So yeah, I would say those were like kind of like my biggest learns from the process over the last couple of months.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm going to be compiling a list of all your guys' tips and tricks that we can sort of go back to in the end. So this is a great head start. First three on the list. Kasia, what are your sort of biggest takeaways or opinions when it comes to fundraising?
Yeah, preparation is extremely important, but also know your pitch deck. Like when you wake up at 3 a.m. or someone wakes you up, you should be able to pitch, because you never know when you meet someone who would love to listen and hear your ideas and your story. And it's awesome to have, like I always joke that I have 1 minute version, 3 minute version, 5 minute version, and 7 minute version, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because you never know when you meet someone in the elevator, or maybe there's going to be someone asking you, hey, we have this like pitching contest and it's going to be in 24 hours, so then you always have to be ready to pitch. And as a CEO, I think it's really, or not even a CEO, because it's not always CEO pitching, right? But when you are the person who's the designated to pitch, know your financials very well, know how much revenue you generate, how much money you burn, your runway, and so on, because this is the bit that throughout our way and our journey with so many tasks we sometimes forget. But if you are the person who pitches, it's really awesome if you are also the person who reports the financials to maybe the investors, partners, or whoever there is. So also, get your numbers right, get your math right too. And a funny experience I have, and maybe there will also be like some tip coming from that, is that in terms of Hear Me co-founders, it's me and two other guys, Pavel and Michał, and they're older, taller, and more experienced, right? So when we when we appear in the meeting, naturally, like people look at them for answers, and the funny thing is they don't have the answers because I have all the numbers, right? So but I think there is of course they're fantastic, and when you start doing startup, of course you have to like organize the work. And I found it really funny always that they would be like, they're the ones who are expected to give an answer in terms of traction, in terms of growth, in terms of money. So that's the thing that I would usually experience. But a promising thing is that, like, I've been pitching, and I know it's gonna sound, like really like an old lady. I've been pitching since 2020. So, but I've been pitching since 2020, and in the last 2 years, I've seen an immense change, positive change, because I start seeing more women on the other side, investor side, partners, analysts, and it makes a difference. It makes a big difference when you are invited to the call and you are not the only girl or woman there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so seeing that there are more women on the other side also makes it more inclusive and comfortable. And I think that the imposter syndrome that Clara touched on a little kind of goes away. And just this one, because I know, like, they're going to be really sad numbers, and we already said the sad numbers, but maybe I can jump in with something positive. Is that I remember like I was having this conversation with this one VC, and I've seen a partner, a lady there, right? And I was like, oh, it's so awesome to to be talking in a group of investors and partners, and there's a woman there, and they're like, and it came from men. Likewise, it's really awesome to also see a female CEO, and I'm like, awesome, it's 2022 finally.
Absolutely. And I think that shift is really crucial. And I like that you said you have to know your numbers. You have to be prepared, and you have to know it inside out at 3 a.m, at 5 p.m, whenever it may be. So speaking about numbers, this brings us to Demium and to Carolina. You said you invested over $3 million into female founders in the last year. That's a great statistic to sort of be going into this conversation with. I'm sure you sift through a lot of these decks and a lot of these conversations. Tell us, what did these female founders that came to you and did win over that investment, what did they do correctly? What is something that you think stuck out to you and sort of broke through that barrier to get that first investment for you guys?
So for sure, the first address that we should reach is actually Kasia and hear me, because I'm always inspired by their story. And this is the perfect example how this girl power, when she enters the room, she's always, vibrant, energetic, and she's actually, when she tells what she's going to do, what her plans are, what her vision is, actually everybody is like, jaw open, and we want to hear more. But I would start actually from the perspective that is very difficult to measure, and also from this perspective very difficult to improve quickly, which is actually the mindset when we are actually entering the room. And it's good that we are moving toward more inclusive environments. And actually, I'm also very happy that at Demium, we have more and more ladies in the committee structure. So actually, it's not only this sense of a feeling that, as Kasia mentioned in many conversations, you're actually entering the male-only room. It's not about just having 50-50, but just to have like this kind of comfort space of talking and to be understood. What I can say maybe also a little bit about the fundraising, and this is not the fault of girls, but this is how it is. I don't see profiling and pre-selecting. I don't see this many girls actually applying to the fundraising process. And I worry about this, and that's why I'm very happy to collaborate with Girls Future Ready and with several different initiatives, because we have to still kind of give wind to the sails of all of these young girls that are thinking, that are having amazing technical background, business background. That's what we're also trying to do via our talent program, to actually, empower, especially at the beginning, so that we have dreams and we have tools to realize these dreams. So I would really wish to see a bigger, as we call it, pipeline of girls in the startup path, in the talent path. So here a lot of work still to do on the very basics. What I really like, and referring already to a question in terms of the fundraising, what I really like is the confidence and the story when the girls start talking. This is really amazing. And having the concise and relevant story, having a very precise plan of what problem we are tackling and the ideas how we want to change it. The storytelling that girls provide are these storytellings are powerful, they are amazing, they are inspiring, and sometimes, and not even sometimes, very often, I'm leaving the committee full of, you know, this great energy that I actually got from the person that just were pitching in front of me. What I would recommend here from the perspective of the investor as well, of course, come prepared. This is something that we actually expect from both sides. So here, to be fair, actually, this is not any kind of like a gold ticket that some people can come prepared more or less. So everybody should prepare. But also, I would recommend, and I've been in the shoes of the person in the startup, stick to your terms. I see sometimes that because of the confidence, because we are not 100% sure that, you know, our idea will rock the market, we will, you know, win it. Of course, we need to get there mentally. But what I really like to see is the girl, the female founder or the female team, because we sometimes have an amazing case of 4 co-founders of the team coming to the committee. It's the precise plan and our expectations that are set straight, and we keep on telling, we keep on repeating. There are certain ideas we have, and we won't be modifying them because this is what we believe in. And that's actually important. And one last comment, what I think is pretty significant. It hit me from the reports as well. It is clever to invest in female-led companies. It is proven that for every dollar invested, and I think that all of us already know the statistics, for every dollar invested in a female-led company, girls can get back with 70 cents, while men, I'm sorry, Adam, if it is painful to you, but it's just 30. So more than double of the return can be generated by female-led companies. And for me, that's a powerful statistic.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very striking to see this huge difference. So Antonella, now coming to you and your expertise with GrowF and seeing the great things that Clara has mentioned about it, you have a 3-month amazing program where you're taking in women who are saying, I'm passionate about a certain region. I have a topic that I want to pitch, to care about, and to build into a world scale and global business. What are, if you were going to narrow it down, this 3-month program into like the biggest takeaways that you think that women have to really master before they go into the fundraising process, what are these skill sets that GrowF really focuses on, that if every woman developed these 2 or 3 skills, they would be master fundraisers?
I love the question. So I think what the biggest takeaway of the program is to understand the VC game and the VC mindset in general. And this is already where Carolina also mentioned, you don't even see so many women applying for these funds or for the investments, is because if you just look at the ecosystem itself, it's notoriously exclusive, right? It has its own lingo, it has its own frameworks and all ideas or insights that you first need to get into. So educating yourself what actually venture capital investment means, how the process is working, how investors' mindset is working, how a VC actually makes money, and why or how the decisions, the investment decisions are based on. So I think just understanding what my investor is all about will also help me to prepare. And we've already heard a little bit about being prepared, having everything ready for fundraising, being on the top of your things, which of course shows also to the investor how professional you are, but also just fastens the process, you know, right? When you just after the meeting send your documents to the investors, the ball is in his or her corner and the pressure is on. But before that, you as a female founder, you as a founder in general, have to think about, what are my financial needs? Do I need external investment, and what kind of investor am I looking for? And if you are a tech company who want to scale in 5 to 7 or 10 years and to get a big share of the global market here, then the VC route is definitely something you should look into. But even then, there's so many different VCs that you can decide on. And obviously, and I think this is also something that we have seen in the past, the more representative the female investors of a VC are, the more likely also that a female founder will apply for that VC. So it's definitely a two-way street, right? There's so much that female founders can do, but definitely as like a lot of things that also VCs can do on that side. But yeah, I would say educating yourself to fully understanding the process is kind of the key takeaway of the GrowF program, and then into detail what it actually means, what are my to-dos, and how do I succeed.
And maybe a quick follow-up bump back to you here. What is the biggest mistake that, or like misconception that you think is seen in that case? If you're saying, okay, you have to be educated, you have to know your deck, you have to know your numbers, you have to know the process. What is the biggest mistake that you see that people who are just not aware of the process make?
So I think the biggest mistake is actually that founders, not necessarily only female founders, but founders think that investors have the whole power or to decide on what investments they take, instead of thinking about as a relationship, as a marriage, as most of people nowadays even say. Because you as the founders also decide who's part of your cap table, who's part of your company, and how much involvement they actually have. So it's not only a decision made by investors, but it's actually a decision made by yourself. And this is, again, it comes down to being prepared, to researching your investors. Who is the investors? How does the investor act? Talk again to the network, to the portfolio companies of the VCs. Ask them how the investor reacted in bad times and in good times, to really figure out what to expect from the investors, but then also set your expectation for the investors straight.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very cool. Okay. So follow-up question for sort of everyone to open up the next stage of our discussion. We're living in a day and age where entrepreneurship is not really an uncommon industry. For example, by the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, there's over 31 million entrepreneurs in the US, which is about 16% of the adult workforce. That's a lot of people that are in this space of entrepreneurship, a lot of women and a lot of men that are building these businesses from the ground up. Why, if you were to narrow down on just one concrete reason, do we think it's so difficult for female founders to attract investors when it's not necessarily a wild space to be in? Is it more social stigma? Do women really don't know how to pitch their ideas? Or maybe it's the barrier of not knowing how to ask for money. Like, we often see women having more issues with negotiating their job salaries or asking for more money. Quick fire, if you were to give me one reason why we think that women find it so difficult to fundraise, what would that reason be? Carolina, open up for us.
All right. That's a tough question because probably the list is pretty extensive. But here I think still we may have this kind of social bias of the power. That's what I feel. That's what I perceive it very negatively, but I feel like when we perceive a male founder, we can think decisive, powerful, good negotiator, and sometimes, and again, I speak of my own startup experience. I've been in these shoes. When talking to the jury, just composed by men only, I was doubting myself because I was thinking, what about my co-founder, who is a guy? Maybe he would have done the same very pitch better. And I knew I practiced it 100 times, but I knew that, hey, maybe they would be more positive into looking at him because he's such a stable, mature person. And who am I? I'm just a young girl. So I feel like this kind of concept of power is what is actually, I think, stopping female founders, but also still investors are human beings, and sometimes we try to fight and improve, and I see a lot of improvement around. Still, we are getting there. We are not there yet. But sometimes I feel like we have some preconceptions in our brains as the investors, and what we judge as powerful or with what potential to further scale can be, socially still influenced. That's my take.
Very, very interesting. Clara, what do you think?
I do agree that it's a complex question and there's so much that goes into it. If I were to say one reason, I think it's because women have a different starting line than men when fundraising. I think the process is just tailored to this one specific persona. And if you look at average salaries, average career history, right? If you look at where women are starting now, they're being measured by the same parameters that were being set for the last 5, 10, 15, who knows for how long, years, that are just not working in the industry. So now when I talk to female founders and male founders, anyone who's coming from either a more privileged or less privileged background. I ask them different questions. I try to kind of, get them on the same starting line, because that's, I think that's the biggest issue. Right? We're all being measured by the same meter that just doesn't work. So I think that's kind of what I've noticed in the process, and been trying to kind of race to kind of get to the same level as founders that would be my seniority, just because they've had more opportunities before starting the fundraise comparing to myself. So yeah, I think it's the starting point.
Very interesting. Yeah, looking at that whole sort of pathway as a very long timeline, and seeing where that starting line and where that finish line is definitely super interesting. How about from your experience, Kasia? What is that one point?
I think representation, but representation meaning that you have to put that seed in people's heads so they will believe it. And I think I don't want to say the lack, but we're waiting for a lot of success story from female CEOs. Today when you ask about, outstanding female CEO, you think about Canva CEO, right, Melanie? And I work in mental health industry. I work, like here me is part of mental health industry, and it is a bit more feminized, so there are more, female CEOs there. But I think, the more female CEO success story we're gonna see, the more girls we're gonna see getting involved into that field, getting that skin into the field, and believing they can do it. Because like there were a lot of women who passed our weight in the business sector, let's say, right? So now we can maybe run, it's, too much to say, but now we can, confidently walk because they paved the way. And I think it's going to be a similar thing with female CEOs. Like, we're still waiting for a lot of success stories, and I'm really excited for them, and they're going to happen. But I think the representation and the more successful women we see in the field, the more, applications from female future founders we're also going to see.
Right. I mean, the whole idea of role models and sort of seeing people in a place where you want to be in a few years is a huge idea behind whether it's mentorship, whether it's really that startup building process, whether it's fundraising. So that idea of representation and seeing someone on the other end of the table is definitely super, super crucial. Antonella, what about you? What is sort of your take on where is this issue even coming from? Let's break it down.
Yeah. So many points to add here, and I totally agree with all of yours. But I think one of the main reasons is definitely biased, right? And it does make sense when you look at how the startup ecosystem worked in the last couple of years and the media hype around it. Investors were looking for, especially from the US, were looking for the next big thing, the next unicorn, the next market disrupting startup, early stage company getting millions and millions of dollars without having any traction at all, or little traction at least. And I think those are just things, skills, mindsets associated strongly with male founders. While on the other side, female founders often get asked questions about the worst case scenario, how you would handle bad situations, difficult situations, defending their ideas, because this is rather the realistic approach probably is also more associated with female founders here as well. And I mean, look at the crises that we have this year only. A lot of those startups with the hyper growth didn't really manage it through, or struggling really, really strongly. So I think this also proves that our concept of hyper growth and unicorns kind of need to adjust a little bit. And I think that we can appreciate even more the more realistic things and the more realistic plans that are coming from more diverse founders here as well. But yeah, it's biased.
Absolutely, and I like that you bring up this idea of expectation, right? I think when whether that's also touching on the previous point of this timeline and the starting point, we see that if there's such a high bar set for female founders, it's higher than the one set for male founders. The amount of stats that you have to deliver, the KPIs that you have to hit, solely because you're expected to perform 2 times as well to have the same amount of respect. And and comments like, oh, this startup failed or had to close or ran out of money, something like being led by a woman should not be a reasoning as to why it failed. There are so many other factors, and it feels like if something doesn't work out and it was led by a woman, that's the prime reason. Oh, it's because a woman started it. Oh, because it was female led. Oh, that's why it didn't work out. Versus when it's a man that is sitting in the same position and something didn't work out, it's like, oh, it's natural. It's a startup. You know, their success rate isn't that high anyway. And seeing this disparity and the amount of stats that you have to hit is just setting an unrealistic expectation for women to be able to perform twice as well for the same amount of respect and funding and expectation that is going into it. Another maybe perspective that goes into it is this idea of female solidarity. When running Girls Future Ready, I really believe that we can't reach true female equality before women support one another and they're able to really create effective spaces to either mentor and build role models and really lift each other up. Because behind every successful woman, there's a whole crowd of successful women that have to have her back for everything to sort of come together and work. But I still have the impression that women really lack this solidarity. Like, we know that we should be supporting one another, but it seems like there is a lot of jealousy and women are prone to judge and to gossip and are afraid of the success of another woman, rather than trying to push her forward and seeing that she's trailblazing a place for future women to sort of be coming behind her. Why is this happening, and why are maybe women, especially in the business world, which is kind of cutthroat sometimes, so hesitant to support one another, support their ideas, and how can we change this and realistically support each other as women? Maybe the best place to start is Grow F, a female accelerator. Antonella, tell us what this looks like and how we can push this female solidarity forward.
Yeah, I think in general, there's definitely a change that you can see. And I think the generations before us, or like the generations who are now in very top positions, they kind of needed to play the man game, right? Elbows out, focusing on your own goal. Doesn't matter who you're rolling through, to kind of get there where they are. But there's like a huge change coming, especially now with the push of the younger millennials and Gen Zs, especially, of solidarity, of a true solidarity. And when it comes to Grow F, and this was kind of the beauty that allowed me also to stick at Grow F for about 2 years now. From the first moment on, I felt like the real empowerment and the strong connection between the founders, and this being open and so vulnerable and honest, but you get just the most out of it. And I think this giving and taking just makes it really a harmonized and working safe environment to actually have this solidarity as
Absolutely.
well. Yeah. And at the same time, it's not about, shaming something else or criticizing the system or just blaming the system at one point, but the mindset of together changing it how it is, not focusing on the bad things, but focusing how we can actually improve it as well. And it's so important with those initiatives or like programs like Grow F to be really hands-on when it comes to so many topics, to make sure that it's not a lot of talking, which is happening a lot in the last couple of years about the topic diversity, but actually actions that follow the conversations here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Kasia, I'm interested about your perspective in this. How do you feel the support of other female founders? You said you're surrounded in a fairly female industry, but also surrounded by men in a lot of the things that you're doing. What's your take?
Okay, so I think I am fortunate enough to say that, of course, we stand on very brave and strong shoulders of a lot of women who are extremely brave, who broke the glass ceiling, who isn't broken yet, right? But like, they tried really hard, and men's work and the adversity they had to face is like impossible for me to imagine. So, but as I started, I think that I'm also fortunate enough to say that I'm also me standing on shoulders of supporting men, because as I already mentioned, there were 3 of us. I was the youngest one, and they were like, yes, you be the CEO because you have skills. Only then I found out that it's a very difficult job, and I don't know. Okay, I'm joking, of course, right? But the men who are in my ecosystem are also supporting me too a lot. And these are not, I don't want to call them, it's going to sound really weird, classic men, but these are the men who look through, the stereotypes, and they were able to make this judgment. Then my skills, then my attitude, and the energy I have will be enough and sufficient to, achieve the KPIs and goals that we planning to achieve. But I think what's extremely important is that what we do with the power that we have as women, us being on C level, because we are the ones who will recruit, we are the ones who are going to promote. And I think it's extremely important. Then when we see our younger selves, seeing these really ambitious women who wanna do career, and they're extremely hardworking, and they're smart, and they're dedicated, and they're passionate, it's our role to give them the chance, to make the board 50-50, to make the leadership 50-50, to make, the management 50-50. Of course, the 50-50 meaning is like, more like a metaphorical, in a metaphorical understanding, not sticking exactly to the numbers, but, it's our job to make the environment, to make the ecosystem, to make the business world in general more diverse. And I think we have the power today, and it's our actions and it's our decisions to make it more fair. And so then we are the shoulders that the new generation of girls and women can stand on. And I think this should be one of our missions.
Yeah, I really like how you said that we really do stand on the shoulders of these role models, but men and women, but also men who are sort of supporting us along the way. Claire, I want to bump to you. I'm super interested with your experience in a field that is more so male dominated. So as a reminder for our audience, Talkbase is a community operations platform. It's designed for team collaboration, program management, and super powerful analytics. So I'm looking at sort of your company website, and you've raised over $2.1 million worth of funding to support your idea, which congratulations. But I want to hear about the way that you think that this like female support, female empowerment, solidarity play in a space that is technical, and it's not a space where a lot of women find a very safe haven and safe home.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as with any support, right? If you have a hesitation to support someone, I think you always need to start with yourself, right? And understand like where is this coming from. Number two, for most of the cases, it's not your fault, right? It's the way the society has been set up. Biases have been and are around us, in us, and there will be our whole lives. So I think that's like the very first important step. I myself personally had a hard time and feelings of jealousy when other founders and female founders were succeeding and I wasn't, right? These feelings are absolutely normal. And I feel like just normalizing that and understanding we're all human, we all have a bias, and it's okay. Our job now is to understand it, identify it, and get better is the first step. And then I think to your question on kind of this like tech industry and how to navigate it, how to be there, I think it's really important to understand if you are a founder, you literally are the idea. Your whole experience, your whole life, your whole mindset, everything led to this one moment of you having this idea, and you're the right person to build this. I think that was the one thought that really kept me through all the ups and all the downs during building our company so far. And I also think it's about education, constant education, always surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you, that need help, just kind of constantly being in the right circles and learning. I think that the best SaaS founders, whether they are men or women, they just always have such an open mindset and are always learning, right? So I think that's super, super important. And then finally, just staying on top of things, and also saying out loud what you don't know and what you do know and what you don't know, right? We would have some like very, very technical questions during our fundraising process if the investor or their advisory board had technical background, and I say, hey, this is how the product works, and let me bring on an expert from my team that knows this better, that I trust, that I chose for my company, right? Absolutely. It was my job to make sure that skill is in our team. I don't need to have all the skills, right? My job is to put together the idea, right? My responsibility. Exactly. And also, find the right people that have those expert skills. I think as a woman, I do tend to kind of have this superhero complex where we try to achieve everything, do everything, be on top of everything, and it's not necessary. I think our job as founders is to make sure that we know what the company needs, right? We drive the vision, and we hire an amazing team that can help us get there.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is super, super important. And I love your mentions of open mindset. Know that you're always learning and that it's not always sort of at your fault. I feel like as women, we tend to blame ourselves for a lot of things that are happening, whether in our lives or in our companies, and having this distance is super important. Adam, I'm going to put you in the spotlight if you don't mind for a second. I know that you were our wonderful intro, but I think that there's a lot of value in hearing both sides of this equation. What is your take? What is something that when you're sort of listening to pitches from female founders, when you're sort of approaching projects like this, when you see this at work, what's your take on whether it be female founders per se, their skill sets, their mistakes? What's your sort of gold patent?
Thank you, Zafia, for the great question. Actually, I'm lucky enough when I meet female founders, I feel like the female that really want to take on this journey, they're extremely determined and they're ready for, to really reach the sky, push to the limits in order for the project to really, let's say, really develop fast. So when I meet female founders, luckily, I was recently in Wolf Summit in Vienna or in any other meetups like that, I was really inspired by the female founders that really were ready. I think maybe consciously of the difficulty maybe that may arise from this tough male still ecosystem, but maybe even more determined that male. So I was very impressed.
Good to know.
But then what I really agree with what was said is that still, indeed, maybe still too much social barrier or mental barrier to go to this crazy river and big water and take on that journey. And I regret that a lot. So I think we need to find a solution on how to make this consciousness on both sides, for males to give a hand, yeah, you should do it, go on board, or for female between themselves in order to achieve these goals. I don't know, education, mentorship, how to incentivize people to take risks. So these are the big let's say challenges, but yeah, the female founders we see here in the hub in Demium are really all amazing, and we are very lucky to have them. So I want more.
Good to hear. Great to hear, Adam. Thank you. All right, we have touched on a lot of super interesting topics. I have a page full of notes for you guys to see sort of everything that we sort of talked about today. But we have some great questions rolling in from our audience that I want to make sure we address. And Carolina, the very first question is directed to you and sort of your experience with Demium and VC and sort of this different industries that you're sliding across your desk every single day. Were female founders especially overrepresented in some industries and underrepresented in others? Are there any industries that you believe need more female founders?
That's a very interesting question, and I never tried to categorize or kind of pre-select being in any way pre-biased with any of the categories or industries. The good thing is, as Demium, we invest very broadly. We are industry agnostic. So here, actually, I have a privilege to go through different presentations, different meetings with different founders. But if I can pick some of the areas, I see many wonderful projects in the mental tech and medtech sphere. I feel there is a lot of empathy in female founders. There is an amazing knowledge, this kind of drive to help others. So that is wonderful. Also, I feel, again, dealing with people, supporting people, HR is quite well represented with female founders, and these projects are wonderful to the momentum, COVID, with the pandemic, with the change of how we work, how we are incentivized to keep on working, how we build relations at work. These are all amazing topics that are being addressed by amazing founders in our hub and across Demium in different hubs. What I feel we can still search for more, and I would really like to see more. It's a little bit of more what we call deep tech solutions. This is, considered a very hard topic, considered a very scientific topic. I still see we partner with universities, with University of Technologies, with different academic backgrounds, and we see amazing scientists, girl scientists in the universities that are a little bit, one leg with the science, eager to start something, but we don't see, I think, enough representation of this so-called deep tech solutions. So here, definitely would love to hear and to see more projects, more examples.
Good, good. I'm glad we're talking about super, super concrete examples here. This gives us a very interesting sort of sphere to go over. Okay, wonderful. The next question is for gender mixed teams seeking VC funding. Would it be advised to have a female founder in the CEO position or even a co-CEO role? What do you think in terms of how it looks when it comes to venture capital? Let's start with Antonella here.
Yeah, I love the question because it rather seems like getting a female founder on board just to get kind of the capital from the VCs to actually have funding for gender diverse startup teams, and less because it actually makes more sense. I think the focus that we need to have here, and also when it comes to GrowF, we support female founders, but what we are looking for are gender diverse teams, because this is the diversity that we are pushing for, and diversity shows, and we've also mentioned that before, that the profitability, the performance, but also the satisfaction of teams and employees, the loyalty is way stronger, or just like better with more diversity. And diversity doesn't stop with gender itself here as well. So yes, if you're a male founder, but also yes, if you're female founders and you're thinking about onboarding a second co-founder or third co-founder, then be open, look for people who are different than you, who have different backgrounds, but also different skill set, a different gender, ethnicity as well, who can just bring a lot of value with their new perspective, ideas, and approaches here as well. So I think that's the way how you should look at gender mixed teams, and not necessarily about how to get the most capital out of the market.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This is super important. Though we're not looking for gender. We're looking for people, and we're looking for a variety of skill sets that women can especially differently provide. Like Carolina was saying, the empathy and the understanding that plays a huge role in so many business spheres. Clara, a question for you. When you're building Talkbase, what is I want to touch on this idea of mentors and role models, but also on the idea of external resources. So I'm going to mash two questions for you, and hoping that both can be hit. So the first one is, when it comes to mentoring, is a male-female mentoring a better solution to change consciousness than female-female or not? And then the second question is, you mentioned that constant learning and constant improvement and understanding is one of the most important things. Could you recommend any sources or resources where you think that you're learning this the most? Is it this idea of mentorship? See the connection here. And then the second one being, are there any books, articles, or conferences, or maybe it's just networking as a whole, that open your eyes the most to these opportunities?
Yeah, I love all the questions, and all this one really, really big question. I'll try to kind of get the answer as short as possible.
Feel free to ask me to repeat.
Thank you. So when it comes to mentoring, I think it's, always think about all the help you can get, right? All the help that you need. And I also think it's, like I said before, try to be open-minded and think about what is like something I'm missing, right? What is something I'm not learning right now? Is it the time for me to learn this? I think this is a huge advice I got from someone couple months back, but a couple years back as well. And that's, there's so much startup advice out there right now, but I would say 95% of it maybe is for post-product market fit companies. So if you're just getting your first investment, that means that you probably don't have a product market fit, and you need completely different type of mentoring and advice so that you're successful, right? It's even for fundraising. If you're raising your first or second round, right? The process is very different than if you're raising a huge series C, D, etc. right? So I think always, first of all, realizing where you're at right now, what's the most important advice you can get, right? Who's the right person to talk to? And I think I've had mentors that are, that were coming from all different backgrounds, different continents, and it's been such a wonderful experience because it really helped me move forward, right? And I used to think that a couple of years back that it's so fancy. All my friends said that they have mentors, and I was like, well, I just talked to my boss. Like, where do I find this mentor, right? And you don't have to have a person who's labeled this way, right? You just need to have a good friend that you can ask, you can talk to. And as you build your company, you start kind of meeting people all around, people that you could potentially hire, work with, fundraise from, etc. And just think about how you can bring value to them, and later on how you can learn from them as well. Like, that's how I'm thinking about building my mentors network. And like I said, we've had a female investor who was our mentor and leading us through the process, and it was absolutely amazing. And we also had a male founder who was doing the same thing, right? So I think there is value to talking to anyone, right? I think there's value of understanding what you need as the mentee. And I've been a mentor in several different programs as well, and I realized that the worst mistake and kind of the downfall of all mentoring is that when you don't know the questions to ask, right? You need to first have a quick brainstorm and figure out what questions you need to ask, and then the mentor can support you. And I think, then going to kind of the other resources and books and where you can kind of learn, I think for me, talking to people is the easiest, the most fun way, right? Because you're doing so many things at once. You're hanging out with someone, you're talking about the company you love, about your product, about what you're building. You're building a relationship, making a connection, learning from someone. I think you can dive into other resources, and I've done that. There's a lot of amazing podcasts, a lot of amazing books, and I do recommend going through those again when it's the right time for you. So yeah, I think there's so much you can do. I think there is a lot of information out there, and we can learn from it so much. But I think it's always about thinking about your resources, your timing, right, and the right questions that you need to ask at that point.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of my favorite things that Clara, you said during this whole time was one of your first points is talk to people who are 1 to 2 steps ahead. You can find great mentors and reach out. I don't know if you want Michelle Obama to be your mentor, but she might not be that 1 to 2 steps ahead information that you need right now. And realizing where you are and where you stand, I think is a very big thing. I think we as women, especially very ambitious women, which is clear we all are in this environment, we think about this final goal. We think about this punchline of this is exactly where I want to hit. This is the target we're working towards. But we realize that it's not an elevator that you're on the level 0 and all of a sudden you're on level 4. It's a set of stairs that you're climbing sort of along the way. And someone who's at the very top trying to pull you up is not going to make the same difference as just the few steps ahead that you need to be reaching forward. So that's huge and super, super valuable. And I think one of the key takeaways today. So we have just about 10-ish minutes left. So we're going to do a quick fire, a few more questions, and I want just few word answers so that we can get through as many of these as possible. So Kasia, a question for you from our audience is, when did you, 1, know you wanted to be a founder, and 2, believe that you could go for it?
I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. I hated that idea for like most of my life because my father is an entrepreneur, right? And I saw the life that it's ahead of me. I was like, never ever in my life, and here I am today, running a startup. So I think you cannot escape it if you are. Well, so yeah. So throughout your career, you kind of find out that maybe you just want to try something on your own, and you might be making a mistake, or you might be making the best decision of your life. But it's always awesome to find out whether this path is right for you or not. Because if it's not, you can always come back, to the previous world that you had. But if you have the seed growing in your mind that you want to try it. And when you feel that the timing is right, do it. And you're never ready. That's just maybe the last thing I want to say again. You'll never feel ready. It's going to be full of mistakes that you have to make, but it's a very important journey, and you grow a lot. So whenever you feel like there's the moment, just do it, take your chance, and you can always come back to whatever life you were having beforehand.
taking the leap. Absolutely. Thanks for that, Kasia. Carolina, question for you. How does our region of Central Eastern Europe perform in the VC world compared to Western Europe? And and how have you seen the evolution of venture capital in this whole landscape approaching female founders, especially in this region?
So to say more generalistically, of course, as the Central Europe, we are considered a very much developing but very attractive region right now to be in. And regardless if this is within our Demium programs, or sometimes I also have a chance to teach young students in the academy with some startup related topics, I'm always saying the same thing. Please do start, do give yourself a chance, because this is right now the moment where, of course, we have amazing stories from Silicon Valley or Western Europe, but each of these ecosystem is different, and we may not consider certain obstacles we might have being in Silicon Valley right now, starting there, or starting in the UK, versus starting in Central Europe, where right now there is a boom of investors. We have a lot of funds, public funds, governmental funds, but also a lot of private investors starting to walk around. And what I can say about the female founder perspective, I see more and more amazing initiatives as a kind of like a support to the startup ecosystem. Many of Central European initiatives are kind of leaders in having this big pool of female founders on board. And of course, one of the partners for today, which is Female Founders, always is kind of a great benchmark of how to support a startup female founders in their journey. Also, many funds connected with female founding are being created. And here, I will repeat the same, what I keep repeating. The VC industry is still in progress and still trying to reach the point where actually we can say, okay, this is the moment where we can be proud of the amount of VCs and the amount of the support for female founders. But we are not very much late. We are doing it on our own pace. We are getting there. The whole ecosystem is developing, but I already see that in this developing ecosystem, there are opportunities. Maybe not yet plenty of opportunities. That's the best idea, to have the easy access, open doors, actually the low barrier of entry. So you don't have to fight, you don't have to go 100 miles just to meet with some other female founder that you may hear about, or some acceleration program. So it's also about the accessibility very much, but it's getting better, really. Big cities within the region are already more and more accessible. So hopefully very soon, all of the countries will be very friendly for female founders.
Totally. We're so happy to have your expertise in this group with us, and sort of being able to judge what this experience really looks like for everyone. As someone who is sort of a young founder and seeing a lot of these areas of growth, I think, ahead of us, seeing whether places that we can all grow individually, and we speak a lot about soft skills today. We spoke about confidence, we spoke about being prepared, we spoke about knowing your financials, we spoke about the idea of stories and storytelling and knowing how to pitch and those things. What do you guys think are the top 3 most promising, like, hard skills that people are learning in this day and age that can really open up, whether it's paths for entrepreneurship, or we have a lot of people that are listening to us right now that might not necessarily think about starting their own business. Maybe they want to work for a startup. Maybe they want to be working for another sort of big corporation. If you were, each of you, going to give me one hard skill that, if you were going to say, Zofia, listen, if you sit down and for 20 hours a week, you will sit down and learn this, you will be the most attractively, like, hireable or startup ready individual that is sort of ready for this world. Let's give it a go. Clara, I see you smiling, so start us off.
Oh, that's a hard one. I was looking forward to hear what others have to say. Get inspired a little bit. All right, I'll try to go first. I'll start with a very basic one, and I think that's self-reflection. I think self-reflection, self-awareness is one of the most important skills any human can have. And I think just understanding where are you coming from, what are your reactions, how are you feeling, how can you navigate through a situation, how can you learn from this, what's happening. I think that's like such a good starting point, because it will tell you what am I really good at? What are the skills that I should be pushing forward? What are the skills what brings me joy, right? What are the skills that I should really build on? And what I'm not that great at? What are the skills that I don't have currently and that I don't need to have, very frankly? I don't think, again, we don't need to learn everything. And as women, we tend to always kind of fixate, and I think as people in general, on the things that we cannot do well and try to like fix that, instead of focusing on the things that we can really, really do well and just like empowering through. So I think that would be my first advice there. Focus on self-awareness and kind of understanding who you are, where are you coming in from, and what are kind of your strong suits.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. Antonella, give us your take. What is one hard skill we must learn?
Yeah, that's a really difficult question, and I think it's also very based on your interests and personality, where you would pin it. But I think one skill is just like so important, and you can just use it on so many different levels or areas, is also understanding market trends, right? Where are we heading with the many situations that we're currently facing, but also what are the opportunities in the future? And then kind of the combination of what Clara said, like where do I see myself in those market trends as well? So I think this would also be kind of my advice, especially for those who are just beginning or are trying to figure out what to do next. Is it a corporate, a startup, or even founding my own startup? Just look at the market out there. What is happening? What are people interested in? What are the huge problems? And do you see yourself solving one of those problems? And I think those understanding the market trends can really, really help also to figure out your way.
Very cool. Very cool. I love it. Kasia, give us the hard skills.
Okay, so I know I've been talking a lot about numbers, and I'm gonna stay in that field, but
Good.
but whatever. When you're thinking about your starting a startup, or a career in a startup, startups are numbers-driven companies. So whatever, if you end up in marketing, customer success, IT, doesn't matter where, you need to understand the data. You need to understand what numbers are driving growth in certain departments, certain fields. So even if you, like, as I mentioned, even if you do marketing, which is kind of like um, but not anymore when I think about it, because it's also like driven by numbers a lot. But whatever path you want to take, as Clara and Antonella already mentioned, you have to be really self-reflexive, and what area is the one for you. Think about this area will have one number that's going to drive the growth of this area. And I think it's really important to understand different numbers that are going to play out in the growth of that aspect. And it also comes back to market trends, right? Because these numbers also are read, and these numbers also drive the market trends. So just pick up this one number and focus on it. So
very cool. I mean, I'm a data science student at UC Berkeley, so I fully resonate with you, Kasia, and see the future in the data, in the numbers. So that's a very good one. Carolina, what do you think? Give us a hard skill that we must all learn.
So I feel I will kind of add to what ladies just shared with us. On top of this is kind of like a next stage, because still I would circulate around numbers, and what I feel what we really need to master, and including myself still, it's this kind of financial literacy for ourselves, to understand what is this kind of comfort in our private savings, in our private budgets, but also how it can influence the decisions we are making in the startups already. On top of that, financials may be also one of this, I feel, area that investors might be a little bit biased, because if it comes to the hard part, the hard skills, the numbers, let's ask, the CFO, that is probably a guy, right? Of course, here I'm simplifying a lot, but you get the feeling. You need to know the base of your business in terms of the revenue potential, the market trends, of course, as it was already mentioned, but you need to know the staffing plan, what does it entail, all of those numerical details. So here, balancing your own personal girl comfort of your life choosing the startup path, also being comfortable what it entails in terms of your personal budget, but also the startup budget. That's definitely the skill that I myself try to teach myself every day, but I'm also encouraging all of the female founders and male founders as well. They also struggle sometimes in this aspect.
Super interesting. Super interesting. Yeah. I mean, a few weeks ago, I learned what a credit score is and have to be sort of on top of it. So I fully see and understand what you're saying.
I can just add one thing to that, because it's also like, I feel it's really, I don't know why, personally also important to me, because I very often hear for women, you know, like, I'm not a numbers person. Like, I leave the financial report to the guys. No, this is I think this is one
numbers game.
Yeah, this is one of the missions and the change that has to happen, you know, because men are kind of stereotypically put in the bucket of numbers, and women on the soft skills and, you know, talking, conversation, empathy, arts. No, like, I know it's really uncomfortable to read financial report, but I really encourage everyone who's sitting here, try once, then the second time, then the third time, because if you're comfortable with numbers, you can run the company, you can run the startup. It's going to be much easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, one of my favorite quotes is that my professor for my class, Data and Decisions, always has on the screen when we walk in is, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. And having something to back it up, I think is super crucial. All right, ladies, so I have a rundown prepared. I have top 20 things that you have mentioned today, and I want to sort of give us a very quick rundown of what we talked about today. What are sort of these key things that stop women from getting investments, but most importantly, top 20 things that women need to do to get their first investment. Number 1 is be prepared. Number 2, build your network, because your network is your net worth. Number 3, talk to founders who are only 1 to 2 steps ahead of you. Number 4, know your pitch deck. You should be prepared to pitch anytime, anywhere. Number 5, know your numbers and know your financials. Number 6, have the mindset and have the energy when you walk into the room. Number 7, apply to the fundraising process. Give wind to the process and always take a chance. Number 8 is confidence. Number 9, the story and the power of storytelling. Number 10, stick to your terms. Don't settle and don't let anyone shift or change your idea, no matter what. Number 11, for every $1 invested, women return 0.77 cents and men return 0.30 cents. That's almost it's over double the returns. So we have a lot of power in our chair, women.
You have financial literacy already.
There we go. We have the financial boost. All right, number 12, 8 more to go. Understand the VC game and the VC environment, the framework, the lingo, everything. Number 13, fundraising is a marriage and not just a decision made by the investor. It is also a decision that is up to you. Number 14, why is it so difficult? Social bias and concept of power, preconceptions. Women have different starting lines, representation, and once again, social bias. Number 15, 5 more, bear with me. Women have to support each other and give each other spaces to grow. Number 16, role models and standing on shoulders of supportive women and supportive men to pave our way. Number 17, know that sometimes it's not your fault. Have to identify and get better. Number 18 is know you are the right person with the right idea at the right time to start your business. Number 19, open mindset, know that you're always learning. And number 20, be aware and be determined. All right, so that was sort of the highlights of our discussion today. That's a lot. We did great progress, I think, honing in on sort of what's really happening in this like cloud of information chaos, as it seems sometimes. So I'm super grateful to have been here with Karolina Wilk-Trianowska, with Antonella Czwak, with Clara Losevs, with Kasia Gryzło, and with Adam Sacco from Demium. So you guys have been a wonderful panel. I want to give a second to address our listeners today. Thanks for being with us and asking us fabulous questions and engaging. I think it's always a more lively discussion hearing from our audience. And if there are any young women under 24 years old that need support, that need that first push, that want that introduction into membership, into workshops, into global mindset, confidence, public speaking, know that Girls Future Ready Foundation is always a home for you. And we sort of want to be here to boost that shift for female founders and young women that want to achieve global success. So I'm gonna bump it back to Adam. Thank you so much for organizing and for hosting, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We have something called like the 10 commandments. I counted 20. We created the 20 commandments together. Thank you so much. It's something that we have to write down, print ourselves, and read every day for I think it's super valuable insights for the audience. Thank you so much, Zofia, for moderating amazingly this discussion with high level, high quality. Thank you in the name of Demium to our partners, Girls Future Ready and female founders. Thank you to our amazing panelists. You said their names: Kasia Gryzło, CEO of Hear Me, Clara Rosert, CEO of Talkbase, Antonella from Female Founders, and Carolina from Demium. Thank you so much. We hope that this discussion has inspired you. We hope still plenty of opportunities. We want to create more, but there are some. Our doors are open. See you very soon, and best of luck. Strive for the sky. See you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.